Welcome to the Fight with Depression podcast, the podcast for people who want to improve their mental health. My name is Christopher Boussard, and on this episode, Molly and I speak about disappointment. We talk about what happens when you experience disappointment, what you can learn from it, and how you can proceed. So thank you for joining us, and here we go. Welcome, and thank you for joining me. Today we're going to be talking about disappointment. I kind of sprang this on Molly, but it was something that I've been thinking about because to me it seems like people are getting, when there's disappointment, when people are confronted with disappointment or face disappointment, they take it as like a failure, I think. Is that the right word?
I would say so.
Yeah. So disappointment translates, I think, to some people as they have failed in one aspect or another. So we're going to be looking at disappointment in kind of a different. We're going to face it for what it is. We're going to look at disappointment for what it is, what we can learn from it, how we move on, and how we actually deal with disappointment in a good way, where it's not going to where it's not going to negatively impact our mental health, and we can actually turn that and start using it for a positive, and not have, like I said, not have this negative mental health struggle with disappointment.
Yeah.
So that was your input.
I was going to say, disappointment is a part of life, right? I remember somebody saying to me, like if I was disappointed, they're like, "Well, get used to it." And that's not very helpful.
That's just kind of a crap. I've had very similar responses, and that's just kind of like a crappy response to somebody's just going, well, just get used to it.
Yeah.
My life sucks, so yours should too. Or that's kind of the take of it.
Yeah.
How people take it.
Well, and that's what I was going to say. It's that, when that's what you're confronted with, if you're disappointed and somebody says, "Oh, get used to it. Life's full of disappointment. Just get used to it." Okay, well, that is accurate to a certain point, but that's just such a negative way of thinking about things. And if you don't shift your thinking on disappointment, then it can be harmful.
Yeah. And so we like to pull up quotes. Molly likes the quotes and everything. So I'm just going to open up with the quote from George Bernard Shaw. He says, "The only real disappointment in life is the failure to try."
Yeah.
And so I think with that being said, life is going to bring disappointments. If you're experiencing life, you're going to be disappointed in one aspect or another, and that's just the way it is. But we don't have to view that negatively.
Yeah. Well, and you also don't have to let it ruin things. We can give a very tiny example. Christopher likes to pick on me because I tend to explain, and maybe not explain, that's not the best word, but say there's a restaurant that I enjoy and I kind of talk it up.
Overhype.
So I've tried to not do that. But if I hype something up, "Hey, you got to go to this restaurant. It's so good. I loved it." Christopher goes, and it's not nearly as good as he thinks that I made it sound. That's on a very low level of disappointment, right? Now he can take that and it can just be like, "Well, this restaurant is terrible. I'm so disappointed that it wasn't as good as you said it was." Or he can just be like, "Okay, it's not as good, but hey, I still like it and it's all right."
Well, I'm going to clarify a little bit, because when Molly gets excited about something, it's not like, "Oh, this is a really good restaurant, you should try it." She's like, "Oh, you need to go to such and such place. Oh, they've got the best burgers there. Oh, it was so good." And so it is, yes, it's a very overhype. And so people go there and they eat it, and it's like, "Oh, yeah, it was all right." Whereas my take is, hey, you should go try this place. We liked it, thought it was pretty good. You should try it. And they go, yeah, we went there. It was actually really good.
Yes.
But when you have a level of expectation that can't be met by whatever you have built up in your own mind, that's going to lead to disappointment.
Yes. And to be fair, when I am passionate about something, it comes out like that. And so I've really tried to tone things down.
And there's not there's not a bad thing about that. I guess I'm trying to think of how to say that, but that's not bad to go to look at something and be like, this is in my head. I'm building this up, and I expect this. Let's say something at work, or I don't know. Yeah, something at work.
Okay.
And you're like, okay, I have this great idea for something. I'm going to take it to my boss, and I'm going to pitch this. I'm going to pitch this idea, and my boss is going to love it, and it's going to be spectacular. You pitch it to your boss, and your boss is like, yeah, I don't think so.
Yeah.
Well, what's going to happen? And you're going to crash, And so there can be a couple things. If you are super excited about your idea, you can either let that tear you down or go, you know what? I really do believe in this, and I'm so excited about this idea. And even though my boss doesn't agree with me, I'm going to find a way to maybe, like, what can I learn from this? How can I take this and evolve it, or transition it. What can I do to change the way that my boss is viewing it? Because maybe my boss isn't viewing it the way that I have put it out there. So what can I do so that my boss can see my excitement about this project? Oh, you know what? Let me look and reanalyze everything. Maybe this project, I didn't pitch it as well as I could have because I was so excited. I didn't I didn't put as much effort into putting it together as I probably should have, because I just wanted to pitch it as quickly as I could. And so I'm gonna put this in my own life. So podcast episodes, YouTube videos, I do this because I go, oh, I want to put this out there. And let's say a YouTube video. I go, oh man, I want to do this video because I think it's going to be good. And I put it together and I put it out, and it gets very few views. And I'm going, well, I'm really disappointed. I have experienced that disappointment in getting very few views on a YouTube video. So what do? I can either go, well, I don't know what I'm doing. This sucks. I am a disappointment. I'm a failure. Or I can go, what can I learn? How can I change this so that I do get more views on my YouTube channel? And so now I'm learning about how to edit videos better. I've done improved my sound quality in the videos, and I'm learning how to basically pitch them better. Mm-hmm. And so I think you can let it get you down, or you can learn from it. Well, now what can I do? Let me put this out, this pitch to my boss, and bring it to my boss in a way that he or she will see my level of excitement.
Yeah. So this just reminds me, and I'm going to ask you to tell this story because I don't want to get it wrong. So Christopher wrote a book a handful of years ago, and he had started work on another book. And in the preparation for that, he was reading a bunch of different authors and kind of, just trying to get a feel for different writing styles and this and that. And he came across a story and he told it to me about Stephen King. Most everybody knows who Stephen King is, I would assume.
I would imagine.
I would think so. I mean, he's extremely successful. So it's a name that most people are going to recognize. But you want to talk about disappointment. Stephen King had books that he would be submitting to different publishers. And every time he would get a rejection. And he would take that rejection letter and nail it to the wall. And you want to talk about disappointment. Christopher, do you remember how many letters there were?
I don't even want to. I mean, I think we could look it up here, but it was a lot. It was a lot.
A lot.
And so, yeah, he took those letters, put them up on his wall, because what he wanted to do is remind himself, like, this is something, what can I learn from this? How can I improve on it? And there was one where he actually was, writing this manuscript, or whatever you want to call it. He was writing a new book, and actually threw it in the garbage. He's like, this is no good. And his wife actually found it, pulled it out, she read it, and she's like, what is this? This is really good. And he's like, no, I don't know exactly the interaction, but
well, he was disappointed in that because he hadn't even finished it.
He hadn't finished it. He was just like, this is a failure. Yeah, he was over it. She pulled it out of the garbage, and she's like, no, you need to finish this. And he did. He finished the book, and I believe that turned into be Christine.
Carrie. I thought you said it was Carrie.
I don't know. One of the two. one of the two. It was a very, very well-known book that turned out to be a movie. But he could have let his disappointment, and I think he almost did at that point. He was like, I'm disappointed in this book, but he didn't let it get him down. He didn't let it tear him down. He kept learning from his past quote unquote failures.
Yeah. And it was Carrie. And he was rejected by over 30 different publishers.
Yeah.
So
on different manuscript different books and everything.
Yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, you can let your disappointments get you down. You can let them, if somebody hypes up a good restaurant and you go there and you have a bad experience, you can go, well, I'm never going to that restaurant again. Or you can go, you know what? Molly really liked that. She seems very passionate about this restaurant. I'm going to give it another shot. Maybe my expectations did not meet reality. My expectations couldn't be met by reality because they were unattainable.
Yeah. Or maybe you just ordered the wrong thing.
Or you maybe ordered, why did you go to a steak restaurant and order a salad? I don't know. Steak restaurants tend to have good fish. But
I was just coming up because I'm not a huge fish person. So that's the first thing that came into my brain.
Yeah. But that kind of wanted to, that made me want to, I'm just going to bring up this other quote from Zig Ziglar where he says, disappointment is a temporary detour on the road to success. So Stephen King, he could have, pitched his first novel idea to a publisher, could have been successful, could have been published. But I wonder if his first pitch, had his first pitch been published, would he be the author he is now? Or did that cause his drive? Was he so passionate about his writing that that's what he wanted to do? So he learned from his disappointments and he pushed himself beyond what he would have been able to achieve before that disappointment.
Yeah. What are the chances of getting Stephen King to come on to the podcast and talk about disappointment? Probably not very
Not
good.
very,
That would
but
be cool though.
but I mean, who knows? We there's some people that we think that might not be able to come onto the podcast, but hopefully we will have them. I'm not going to be disappointed if we actually I will be disappointed, but I will learn from that, and I will build on it, and I will keep pushing.
Yeah.
Just like, if my viewers, my listeners aren't as good, what can I learn from this?
Absolutely.
So yeah. Anyway, sorry.
No, that's okay. We're
yeah.
good. I think it's a good story, and it ties in well with disappointment. So yeah.
So Martin Luther King Jr. says there can be no deep disappointment where there is not deep love. And I think that if, let's say, Stephen King, since we're using him as our example here, let's say he didn't have that passion for writing. It was just like, I'm just going to see if this works out. If he didn't have that deep love for writing, that disappointment wouldn't have driven him further.
Yeah.
So yes, thank you for not disagreeing. You agreed with me. Yes is an agreement, not a disagreement.
Correct.
Yeah. Anyway, so back to Martin Luther King Jr., if you don't mind. He also says we must accept finite disappointment, but never lose infinite hope. So, that failure, quote unquote, or that disappointment could lead to that loss of hope. But if we don't let that get us down, we accept our disappointments, but we don't lose our hope because of it.
Yeah.
We just keep driving. It should give us motivation, I think.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I think I could say I've experienced a lot of disappointments in my life, and I have often let it get me down.
Yes.
And I have been, I wouldn't say hit rock bottom, but I've definitely hit a low point from my disappointments. And I'm just going to say we had to take a little break here. We did pause this for a second because there was children running about and running amok. And so we were talking, and you said something. So what you were talking about, when I was trying to pitch my book.
I was talking about when after Christopher had written his book, he self-published, and he decided to send it to some agents. And how many agents did you send it to help you with that? I think it was like maybe 3.
Oh, no. It
was
was
more
more
than
than
that?
that. Yeah.
It wasn't too many though.
Well, it was probably maybe about 10,
Yeah.
if that.
Yeah.
So
I
not
think
many.
it was less than 10.
Yeah.
But I remember it very well because we had a friend's wedding to go to, and he just seemed extremely down, and he wasn't having any fun, and just really, really sad. And he didn't tell me until afterwards that the last one that he had sent out, he finally got a rejection letter from, saying that they weren't interested at this time. And I think that disappointment really was pretty hard for you to deal with.
I also got one while we were up camping. We were on a camping trip, and I kept checking my emails like, oh, maybe this one will, and I let it get me down. I let it kind of ruin a lot of that camping trip, which we ended up, I went past there, and I actually wrote some other small things on that trip from that disappointment. And it was actually, I look back at what I wrote on that trip, and it was actually I'm kind of proud of what I wrote. And it wasn't, in a book or anything like that. I write things down as they come to mind. And sometimes I look back at what I wrote, and I'm like, what was I talking about? And other times I look back and I'm like, that was actually pretty profound. I don't know, it was pretty profound. And I look back and I was like, that was very interesting. And I can bring some of those ideas up. And that's where some of these things for the podcast and everything come from, is those thoughts that I've had just randomly or from my disappointments. And so those those disappointments can turn into a positive, even though in that moment you are in a low point.
Yeah.
It can be easier to see clearly once you hit that disappointment, I believe.
Well, I think it's kind of, you can't avoid disappointment.
No.
Let's just say that, right? You can't avoid it, but you can move through it. And like you said before, you can let it be something that is going to encourage or inspire or give you more drive, or you can let it be something that is going to take you down. So what I saw was during that wedding that you let that disappointment take you down. And I'm not shaming you for that or anything. I mean, that was several years ago. And unfortunately, you didn't get to enjoy a great time with friends like you might have been able to. Now, with the camping trip, you took that, you were disappointed, and you did something beneficial with it. You wrote down and you got it out and you grew from it.
Well, it's very similar to a lot of the things that I wrote in my book that I wrote. A lot of the parts that I wrote that I'm more proud of were moments of disappointment. I was feeling down. I was feeling rejection from fire department. So when I was looking for a full-time job, those rejections, which, you know, when you're looking for a full-time fire job, each one, no matter how many you go through, they all hurt just the same. When they're like, no, we're gonna pass, or they don't even respond at all, you know. Anyway, but what Molly was talking about just brings me to this other quote from Brené Brown. And she says, disappointment is a powerful teacher. It reminds us to reassess our expectations and find strength in resilience.
Yeah.
And I think that that's kind of like what we're talking about is when you have that disappointment, you do reassess your priorities sometimes.
Yeah.
You reassess your tactics, your strategies, your pitch to your boss.
Yeah.
You start to reassess a lot of things. And I think, like I was saying before, had Stephen King not felt that disappointment, had he not gone through all that, would he have assessed his life, and would he have put out as the quality books that he did? Or would he have just been like, you know, okay, I'm just going to write another one? Or did that give him drive? Did that make him persevere that much more?
Well, I assure you, it made him a better writer. And I think that, what am I trying to say? When we grow in these times, you know, if you pay attention to when you're disappointed and pay attention to when you are down, that's, I think, when the most growth happens for a person, because it's hard and it's not easy, and you're disappointed because you're rejected or because you didn't, you know, get the job that you wanted, or you didn't get. I think of this story for some reason. This story just popped out to me after you read that quote from Brené Brown. When we were looking for a house 8 years ago, we found the house that we're in now, and we put an offer in, and they rejected it. They just flat out said no, didn't counter, didn't do anything. And we were so disappointed because it was everything, I mean, most everything that we wanted. These days we could use a larger garage and a larger kitchen, but for the most part, it was everything that we wanted. And instead of, we were highly disappointed, but instead of just saying, okay, well, whatever, I guess that's not the house for us, we pursued it more. And we waited a few days and we submitted another offer, and lo and behold, they accepted it. And it was great. And it's a silly, small little example, but it was a huge disappointment when it happened. And it was a huge relief, you know, when finally we did get it. So I don't know.
Well, I was just thinking about like rain clouds. People associate raining and storms and everything with disappointment, or with sadness and gloominess and everything. The what's his name? Ernest. Why can I can't think of his name. I just had it on the tip of my tongue.
Like
Anyway,
Ernest Scared Stupid.
yeah, Ernest. He was, yeah. Um, he sang that song from Ernest Goes to Camp. I can't remember the name exactly. It's "Gee, I'm Glad It's Raining," or and it's a great song. I'm pretty sure he wrote it. But when it rains, that's when flowers bloom.
Yeah.
That's when grass grows. That's when So yeah, we have rain clouds and it rains, and that's our sadness and everything. But that's when we grow.
That
you know?
is. That's a really good analogy. I like that because I was thinking that same thing when you started talking about rain. And I was like, well, we have to have the rain because
Yes.
that's when growth happens.
Yes, we need to have the rain. Otherwise, you're just sitting there baking in your own sun. That was not as profound, was it?
No, I didn't like that one so much. That just made me think of like a worm that's drying
Yes.
up in the
See?
sun.
Worms need rain, and people do too. I don't know, but I mean, I guess we just look at what disappointments have we experienced, and what did you learn from it, and how will you proceed?
Yeah.
So you can either let your disappointments get you down, or you can persevere from them. So I think I see it a lot where people experience something negative, and they complain, they make excuses, they blame other people, and we can do that, or you can learn, you can adapt, and you can overcome, and you can persevere.
And the examples that we give are pretty light. They're pretty surface level. When we were going through it, the whole job thing was not surface level and light. It was really emotional and really difficult, and there was a lot of disappointment for many years. But there's things that people deal with that are much more difficult and challenging than we could ever imagine, And we're not speaking, Go ahead. I'm so sorry.
No, you're.
Oh, I thought you were going to say something. We're not getting into those really deep things right now, but it is an area where you can grow and learn and overcome if you pay attention to when you're in that disappointment.
Yeah.
That wasn't profound, but I just
I
said
don't
it.
know. It was just a comment.
I know.
Anywho, yeah. So that's kind of a lot of. That was a lot of what I was kind of thinking about, the disappointments and everything. The last couple days, and when Molly asked what we were going to be talking about, I pitched the idea to her, and I thought she seemed disappointed with my idea of a podcast episode. And I could have gone, okay, well, I guess, maybe we won't do that. I'm going to sit in my own gloominess because she didn't like my idea. But I was like, okay, no, let's write some stuff down. And here we are talking about this topic.
Yeah. And I think I'm just going to say what it came from kind of today, if that's
Sure.
all right. And this may rub some people the wrong way. But I kind of been taking a stance lately, as Christopher has as well, that there are things that people don't talk about that we need to talk about. And sometimes people set you up for something and you expect something, and we go back to that. If your expectations are too high, you can be easily disappointed. But I had a conversation with someone, and it brought out a story today, And the story was when we found out we were going to have a baby, Christopher and I, we were very excited. And I mean, it was just amazing, and all the things that you would hope, right? And I didn't care if it was going to be a girl or a boy at all. Didn't care one way or the other. I really hoped for a boy because I didn't have a brother, and I just hoped that we had a boy, but it really didn't matter. And then we went to the doctor and had the ultrasound, and we found out that we were having a girl, and disappointment hit, and it hit really hard. And it hit me, not Christopher. Christopher was excited and thrilled, and it was an emotion that I wasn't prepared for. I felt like something was wrong with me, and I didn't know why I felt that way. And then I was pretty ashamed of it, in all honesty, and I kept it hidden from everyone but Christopher for a very, very long time. And as I've opened up about that, and granted, that didn't last forever. It lasted for a few days, and then that was it. And I got really excited and picking out girl clothes and this and that, whatever.
Like, we can put bows in her hair and all that.
And then she turned out to be bald for the first 2 years. Yeah. And now she has the best hair and so much of it. But I'm not the only one that has felt that. And I have talked to numerous people who have had those disappointments as well, because they're, maybe they are hoping for a certain, gender of baby. Maybe they've had all boys and they want a girl and this and that. But it's something that I think people need to be honest about, because everybody said, oh, it's not going to matter. You're going to be so excited. And I didn't feel that way. It took a few days for that to sink in and really get in. And so that's kind of where this episode kind of spurred.
Well, and I think on that too, we have like we were talking about, we have those expectations, whether whatever it is, regardless of what you're going through or whatever. It could be something silly, or you have something built up in your mind, you have some expectation, and it turns out to be a little different than you thought. If you sit in your own mind with that, you can spiral. You can snowball, you can spiral. But if you talk about it and you bring that up to somebody and they go, oh, I had that same experience. This is what I did, or, whatever, or just even saying I had that same experience. You're going, I'm not alone.
Yeah.
My disappointments are not my only experienced by me. And that is very freeing. Mm-hmm. And then you start to realize that maybe this isn't such a bad thing.
Yeah.
How grateful are we that we have, and like Molly said, I was ecstatic when we're having a girl, yay. But how grateful are you that we have the kids that we have?
Oh my goodness. I wouldn't, they're amazing.
Imagine it being any different than it is.
No.
And so when you move past something, you can talk about it, and then you look back, you reflect, and you go, I can't imagine having it be any different.
No.
And I think we got to come to a conclusion here, but let's look at my back. How bad of a time did I have with everything that was going on? And would I like to have changed what was happening? Mm-hmm. Would I have gotten rid of my back injury? Would I have gotten rid of the pain that I was going through? But if I didn't experience everything that I did, when I did, and the way I did, I wouldn't be where I am right now.
Yeah.
We wouldn't be sitting here having this conversation. So life, the way that things turned out the way that they did, regardless of whether that's what I wanted or not. But that's how it turned out. And I am who I am now because of it.
Yeah. Well, it's not how you wanted your
Absolutely not.
career to end in the fire service. Most people, in a
Like, yeah, I'm going to
job
be in
like
here
that,
forever and
they're going
retire.
they're gonna get to their retirement age and they're gonna be done and that's it. Or they're going to change careers or whatever, and it's going to be a decision that they make. Well, this wasn't a decision that you were given to make, and that had to have been extremely disappointing. But at the same time, that, like you said, there's no way that I would go back and change that, even though it was tough, seeing you go through all that and the way that it happened. Everything was disappointing about it. The timeline, everything. It was very disappointing. But to be cheesy, we saw the silver lining of it all. And you have to pay attention to that to really feel, and that's not the right word I'm looking for. I don't know. You have to pay attention to it and
to experience it, to appreciate that where you are.
Absolutely.
Anyway, so any final thoughts, ideas, conclusions?
No, I think that this one, disappointment is so broad.
Absolutely.
And then there's, like we said, there's the small things and there's the big things. And if you're struggling with something that's really huge, we feel for you and we understand how that can be. But try looking at it from a different angle. Try growing. Try writing something down in your disappointment. Trying looking how you can better things, and then see what happens.
And it's not just like the whole look at the silver lining. Look at this a different way, or it's more of a what can I learn from this?
Yeah, absolutely.
Or how can I grow? So
because you're going to be disappointed.
That's life. Suck it up, Buttercup, right?
Hey, right?
Yeah. Just kidding about that one. I think they knew that.
Yeah.
I'm kidding.
I hope so.
Okay. Anywho, if you need to reach out to us, you can go to thefightwithdepression.com and go to the contact page, fill out the information there, submit it. It goes right to my email. I check that constantly, regularly.
All of the above?
All of the above, yeah. And if you're on Spotify, I think you have to be on the Spotify app on your phone. You can answer the questions that we post and everything. As always, if you need to reach out, have questions, concerns, comments, suggestions for upcoming episodes, something you would like us to address, then please reach out to us. Once again, thefightwithdepression.com. And until next time, God bless.